Hello and welcome to Take Back Time. My name is Penny Zenker and I'm your host. And today we're going to talk about high performance in the digital age. And, what does that mean? Well, we'll find out. But we all know what high performance means. And we all know that we're living in the digital age. So let's pack those two together and see how we can be more efficient and effective to take back time in this day and age. And today I have Michael Alf. And, we're really excited to have him, first of all, because he's a personal friend of mine. And we met, God, how many years ago was that now? Probably about 7-8 years ago when we took a neurostrategy masterclass together. And, so we can know and understand all the habits and behaviors that we and everyone else out there is having and how to better shift those behaviors to what we want to have versus what's automatic. So we've got that psychology, that behavioral psychology background together. And you've been doing so many exciting things in the last, 8 years. I've been hearing about lots of different things you've created first and foremost that we're going to talk about today. And then you can tell us more about anything else you think that the people who are listening need to know. But, most importantly, also, you were a successful, consultant and CEO, CFO, COO in a number of different companies. And so, business, what high performance is and how to activate it. And so you've created this program. You're the founder of the High Performance in the Digital Age. And people will notice from your accent that you are not the typical American, since you are German. And somehow maybe you even have an Australian accent by living in Australia for as many years as you have. So, Michael, I'm going to introduce you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Penny. I'm so excited to be here with you together. I mean, as you said, we've known each other now for so many years, and it was really hard to stay in touch when I was in Australia and you somewhere in the US, and we really tried to, I know we tried a couple of times to get together, but somehow, that was really tough. Now, at the moment, I'm in Berlin, so the German capital, and the startup capital of Germany and Europe. Really excited to be here. And now it's a lot easier to connect. So I'm really glad to be here on the show.
Me too. It can be at a reasonable hour. You're like, hey, can we meet at 4 a.m.? I'm like, no.
Yeah, very true.
I love you, but there's love my sleep even more. So tell us a little bit about, what do we need to know about your background in order for us to understand how you came about to talk about the high performance in the digital age?
Yeah, thank you. So look, as you said, I'm from Germany, and I started my career actually with the German Armed Forces as an officer, the first 10 years. So that was my first big kind of block, finished there as a captain. And then I joined consulting and spent a lot of years in consulting in Germany, but globally, then in global roles and European roles, working on strategy and implementation and transformation and outsourcing and development and all the whole stuff. And then 10 years ago, we said we have to move somewhere else. We want to experience that and
be at the beach.
Experience. Yeah, and have something special. And so we had an opportunity to move to Melbourne, Australia. We took it end of 2008. And then we went there with its consulting companies. And then from there, I had actually a really interesting journey, a roller coaster journey in the last couple of years with lots of different things, tried a lot of things which didn't work and some things did work. And so it was really interesting, but a lot was really around the digital space. And the other thing which I'm fascinated is about kind of people and how we behave and what drives us, what motivates us. That's why I created also kind of my podcast show, the Discipline Disruption Podcast, really at that intersection between digital disruption and personal transformation. Because the question for me is really around how do we prepare for this digital age? How do we change our thinking, our mindset, our approach, our methods we are using to actually not only survive, but really thrive in this digital age? Because for many, they feel it gets harder and harder, isn't it? It's this overwhelm, there's so much happening. And that's what I want to address with my work.
Well, I hope you're going to address this problem. When people are attached on their phones. I mean, digital is great, and it does, accelerate, processes, and it can definitely, make things more efficient and effective. But, it's how we use it, right? So it can be also an obsession and also suck away our attention, our energy, our productivity, and so forth. So I hope that
absolutely
on that point today first.
Yeah, absolutely. It's spot on. And I actually have something for your audience later on, with some tips. Yeah, so 5 productivity hacks specifically for the digital age. Yeah, and your audience will love it. Maybe not the tips itself, all of them initially, because some of them you have to change your behavior and you have to do things differently. And
they'll love to hate it.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, when you get the results at the end, and you see this improvement, and you see, I actually get more done, and I feel better. I feel less overwhelmed. I mean, it's worth it, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's all about, I always tell people too, it's not just what we do, right? It's how we do it. So we have to keep that in mind. Is that there is happy balance. So everybody who's listening, stay tuned. You're going to get a gift at the end if you stay till the end to get the URL.
Absolutely. And one good example, because you just showed the smartphone. I mean, a lot of people, they wake up in the morning, and the first thing they do this email purge. Yeah, exactly. So they go through all the emails and swipe and kill all the emails or delete all the emails.
Like killing your brain cells as you go across.
Exactly. The challenge is, and I'll tell that, my audience in keynotes and workshops, the problem is, your brain still has to read every single subject line. So that means you actually take energy away in the early morning from things which are not important at all, just to kind of delete these emails, instead of focusing on what is really important in the day and do these email purge, then, I don't know, at midday or something like that, and then delete all the unnecessary emails.
Totally. I say the same thing. It's such an energy suck. Like it makes you reactive first thing in the morning. Like start your day reactive and be really on point. I totally agree with that. And actually, there's other ways also technologically, so that you shouldn't have to go through them and swipe and get them out. There's lots of different things that you can do with filters and stuff to make your life easier as well.
Absolutely. So that's a very simple but very, very effective tip. People should you should try out. Try it out for a week. So it's always a nice one. And I know from working with my clients also in the coaching space, in the high performance area, it's sometimes it's hard, even a week. But this is something you have to bring up the energy, because the results and the return you get is just kind of makes you feel a lot better, and it makes such a huge difference. So so that's one big tip which I have in terms of kind of that digital age and what you can do around that.
Awesome, that's great. So you guys will do that. I know you're listening. So now I want you to check in and let us know how it went. Just take 1 week. And do that for 1 week and see the difference that it makes. And I know that the first day might be really hard, and it might actually create more stress because you're detoxifying. You're addicted. Face it, you are addicted. So 1 week, take the challenge. Thank you, Michael. We will do that.
Absolutely. Sounds good.
So tell us more about, what is high performance to you?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question. And so the way how I use it is based on work by the High Performance Institute, because I'm a certified high performance coach there. And they did a lot of research around what drives high performance, what makes high performance. And there are certain habits which actually make all the difference between high performers and less high performers. And those are clarity, energy, courage, productivity, influence, and then there's necessity. So you have these 6 high performance habits, and they really kind of build this foundation of high performance. And what I basically did, I used these elements. And the interesting thing is, this is all about mastery. So it's not like when you are productive, you are productive. So you are 10 out of 10. It's like you can always improve because your circumstances change. So therefore things work differently and you have to apply different ways and so on. Clarity is the same thing. Yeah. So you might have clarity, a certain level of clarity today, but tomorrow when things, let's say you get promoted tomorrow, yeah, then suddenly your clarity is gone. I mean, yeah, exactly. So it's like then you have to start all over again. And so it's on every level you can actually look around and look at those 6 high performance habits and see how you can improve them. And what I did then is I used that as a, if you like, a foundation. So think about back to the smartphone. Yes, the smartphone operates with a simple stack. Yeah, so you have an operating system, your iOS or your Android. Then you have applications, your email program and your browser. And then you have kind of the user, so yourself. So that's a very simple 3-part stack. And what I did, I used the stack analogy and used that for your personal operating model. So how do you operate yourself? So the operating system is basically this high performance. So this high performance is really the foundation, is your operating system. And think about how often you upgrade your operating system on your smartphone on a regular basis, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And the reason is because otherwise it doesn't work, or it's not functioning enough, or it's not performing well. And the same applies for the high performance in your own world. So that's how it works. And then on top of that, sits all this digital stuff and the digital elements you need to look at. So that's kind of this in principle, this simple framework. And it works really, really well because it addresses the need for high performance. And then it looks at the digital age, what else is required.
Well, so what are those things in the digital age? What else is required? You can't leave us hanging there.
So there are 3 components from my perspective that make that out. And the first one is digital literacy. So we all have to kind of learn and embrace all this new stuff. So IoT, artificial intelligence, blockchain, infinite computing, all these things, industry 4.0, whatever it is, you need to understand what's happening in your industry, in your world, and need to learn that. And so you have to have this constant learning, much more than in the past. There's a lot of talk about it, but I think it becomes more and more critical that you stay up to date. So that's the first one, digital literacy. The second one is path clarity. And what I mean by path clarity is a short-term path clarity, because things are changing so quickly. So it's really around understand what are your 3 top projects at the moment and how do you get there? So you simplify and you only have 3 projects in your life and you focus on those 3 projects. And you have a clarity, you create this clarity, how you move forward in these 3 projects. And everything else, kind of you block out, because you will have overwhelm. It's unavoidable. Yeah, there's so much coming upon us. So overwhelm is the new normal, as I say.
Yeah.
And it's just normal. So the question then, what do you do? If you know that overwhelm is normal, then you just accept it and focus on what is most important. So that's the second one. So we have digital literacy, path clarity, and the third one, which is nice into the productivity discussion, is what I call personal agility. So a lot of people talk about agile and Scrum, but we need to start with ourselves, because when we don't understand how agile works and how we think in a more agile way, then an organization can't do that, right?
Absolutely. Well, it's got to, if you can't do it personally, how are you going to do it collectively?
Exactly. So, and that's the whole purpose and the idea of that is like you start with yourself. Yeah. You create your own personal agility. And one way how I do it, is using the agile approach or the Scrum approach for your personal productivity. So I break it down and apply that to the productivity. So today you might have to-do lists or whatever it is, but I basically use the Scrum approach, which is in principle, the core element is a Scrum board. Yeah, so it's a whiteboard.
Well, so wait, there's a lot of people who don't know what Scrum is, right? So let's just back up and say, so I get it. So, and we're going to go into more detail in that third area there on the personal agility, which I think is great. And I actually like that terminology a lot, right? But so where, people who aren't familiar with it, what is Scrum at a really high level and why should we care?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So a couple of decades ago, Jeff Sutherland basically looked at all the projects and how wrong typical projects are going. So IT projects, infrastructure projects, everything. So when you think about large projects, developing a new bridge or a new car or whatever it is, yeah. So or a software system. So the big things. And he said that can't be. And then he developed this Scrum approach.
Well, it can't be because there's a statistic, and I forget the exact statistic, but I know that it was over 30%. I think it was closer to 50% of those projects fail,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
That's what can't be, is how do these massive investments just fail? So that's exactly my remembrance of it.
Absolutely. You're spot on, Penny. So it's in this high 30 plus, up to some say 70%, especially for the large projects. So It's massive, and it's millions of dollars getting lost there. So he said, I have to solve this problem. And so he came up with his new approach, Scrum approach, and developed that. And that has started in the software development space. Yeah. So today it's interesting statistic. When you look at the Silicon Valley, a venture capitalist would typically not invest into a startup if it wasn't run agile. So that shows you how powerful this methodology is, because that's the standard. And interestingly, the Silicon Valley is obviously ahead. Yeah? So they use that everywhere, but it's really coming now around the world. So here in Berlin, almost every organization is looking into agile Scrum, and I'll put that the same. Yeah. So is using that and trying to educate the leadership. Yeah. So the board, the leadership, and everybody else to understand how that works, because it's a very different approach of thinking.
It is. And I'd like to highlight what I understand of it, and you tell me if it's correct, and why everybody who's listening needs to really think about this, because it is a different level of thinking. And I always say that it's about thinking and acting more strategically. So traditionally in large project planning, they spent a lot of time planning out all the way to the end of the project. They spent, these Gantt charts were so out of hand, right? They spent more time updating the Gantt charts for everything that changes, as things do in a project, and they're less flexible. And there were so much time and resource into what, if I understand and remember correctly, Jeff Sutherland would say is over planning, like way over planned. So this agile Scrum method, if the way that I understand it, is really more like rapid prototyping, like really, short-term type of planning, and just improving the communication and also the way that you manage any particular task. Did I understand that and explain that in a fair way?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's very true. It's really moving away from what is called waterfall. Yeah, so you do one step after the other. And when something goes wrong, you have to go back all the way back to the beginning. The problem is when you have, let's say a 10 million project, then it gets very expensive when you have problems after 7 million. Yeah, and you have to go all the way back.
Yes.
So Agile tries to instill more flexibility, in an approach, but in a structured way. And I think most people miss that part. It's not chaotic.
The most important part. You got to have structure.
Exactly. The more flexibility you have, the more structure you need, which is kind of counterintuitive. Yeah.
Wait, say that again, because everybody doesn't understand. And I totally believe this, right? And people, they think that structure means rigidity. So say again what you just said.
Yeah. So the more flexibility you have, the more structure you need.
The more flexibility you have, the more structure you need, or the more flexibility you want to have, the more flexibility.
Correct. And it's because you open up what and how people are doing it, but therefore you need obviously a frame to bring it together. Otherwise, we have anarchy. I mean,
it's a container, so to speak. Can you imagine if you had you pour out you want to have a glass of water, but you pour it and it's all over the place, right? It's just it's a container to make sure that you're directed and moving forward in the direction you want to go in.
That's actually a beautiful visual when you think about, especially I'll continue on that, because when you have the water is and you drink water now. Yeah, so that's maximum flexibility because it's fluid. Yeah, so therefore it needs a container. When you have ice, when you have the water in form of ice, that is far less flexibility. Therefore, you don't need a container.
You don't need as much structure, right? They're still going to,
exactly.
the ice may still spill over, but right, that structure is going to depend on how fluid it is. That's
Absolutely.
a great, that's good. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's what most people underestimate. They think agile means chaotic. So I always ask people, said, okay, do you think you're agile? And agile doesn't mean that when your boss says right today and left tomorrow, you do right and left. That's following your boss, and that's another topic.
Right. That's something else.
But agile is really about achieving key milestones and in a very very efficient and effective way. Yeah, and through a very nice and simple process. And what I did, I used this process, which was used to develop software, to simplify and strip out everything which is not necessary, and leave the core of it, the benefits of it, and apply that to your personal productivity. That's the idea of that program.
Awesome. So tell us about the structures that are in place. We're coming to the end of the show, but tell us a little bit about how it works and what the structures are that are there to support us.
So when you think about, there are a couple of challenges we all have. One is, think about how many things you have on the go. Everyone has so many things in their head, going on, juggling all these balls. So wouldn't it be nice to not have to think about anymore? So that's what this does. Yeah. So it has this so-called backlog, and basically everything you think about goes in there. The beauty is, the moment it is on this backlog, it is out of your brain.
Right.
So you have free capacity up there. Yeah.
Right. And so that's like David Allen, who talks about, get it down on paper, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's one. The other one,
get it down.
Exactly. So the other one I want to mention, and then there's a process in between, how you process these items. Mm-hmm. But then at the end, there's another fascinating thing. Have you ever had a Friday where you looked back at the week and said, I was so busy, but I didn't get anything done?
Not me, but I'm sure somebody else out there has. Not me.
Yeah. So we all have these Fridays. Wouldn't it be nice to get rid of this forever? That's what this program does. So one of the big problems is, the moment we complete something, be it small or big, it's forgotten.
We forget it. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous. We don't give ourselves, we're so hard on ourselves, and we just do not even recognize our successes when we have them.
So true. And this is another key component. So what you do, you collect all your achievements in a week.
Yeah.
And at the end of the week, you say, oh, yes, I did that. Oh, yes, I completed this letter. Oh, yes, I did this proposal. Yes. Yeah. Or that's actually, it felt like I wasn't doing anything, but I really look at my list now, and it's pretty impressive. Yeah. Yes, I could have been better, but I was actually quite good, even if it feels different. And it's such a huge difference, and it gives you this great feeling when you move into the weekend.
Absolutely. It's funny that you say this. I mean, I shouldn't be surprised. We're very much in alignment in that context. But somebody that we both know, we work together on a regular basis. We coach each other and whatnot. And we started to put together this process of collecting our wins and going through our wins, because of the same reason, is that, why do we have to be defeated at the end of every day or at the end of the week? Just because, psychology tells us we delete, distort, and generalize things, right? Yes. Because that's the way we process. So we have to remind ourselves of all the great things that we did, as opposed to focusing on what we didn't do. We get to do both. We get to focus on what we did do and feel good about it, and then say, and here's what I can do next week. So I love that's systematized in your program. That really helps people to put that as like a regular habit and practice in place, because that is so valuable.
Absolutely. So that's the power of that, and that leads to that's one element which then really leads to this personal agility, which I think is so critical in today's world. That we that we learn these skills and this different way of thinking and seeing what is necessary. And so that's kind of, so that's that framework, and that's what I think is high performance in the digital age. When you do that, when you maintain your high performance and master that, and then you look at those three components: digital literacy, path clarity, and personal agility, you are on an excellent path into the future.
That is so great. Thank you for sharing that, because I think everybody on could take away that tip for themselves, a couple of good nuggets that they can really put into practice like right away. And then, you have also a system that can support somebody, because sometimes we know we're not so good at doing it on our own. And so sometimes we need to have systems and coaches and people that support us so that we stick by our intention and follow through, because that is
Absolutely.
somewhat challenging, right? So what I'm understanding is, as just a quick recap, is that, our habits are what make the difference between high performance. And so we've got to balance those from what we need on the high performance side together with the digital age and what's happening in our current environment, so that we can stay current and even proactive, and at the same time, not overwhelm ourselves, but to stay focused on the key objectives. And
absolutely, Penny. Yeah, spot on. Nice
awesome.
Summary.
Thank you so much, Michael, for being here. Now, I know you said you had a gift, and you might have some other places that people can check out this high performance program. So where can they go to do that?
Yeah, so what I have is the 5 productivity hacks for the digital age. And you just go to HPDA. So that stands obviously for high performance in the digital age. So hpda.link/phacks, all lowercase, for productivity hacks. So very simple, hpda.link/phacks. And awesome. You can download the 5 productivity hacks. And then you can find out more, obviously, on my website, michaelalf.com. Yeah, so very simple, but I really suggest you download the productivity hacks because they will help you. Yeah, and you can implement them, and then let me know how you go, and if you want to have any further discussions.
And you also have this 6-week program, right, that helps people online to build these habits. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So if that's of interest, you go to thepersonalproductivityprogram.com, and it's basically a simple, straightforward 6 weeks program where you learn exactly step by step this methodology. You apply that to yourself. The beauty is the idea is that you get into action, so using the framework as quickly as possible, which is already in week 2. Yeah, and then you learn by doing, but by guided doing. Yeah, which I think is the best way to learn. By the way, I think there's even a bonus for fast learning in there. And so that's on thepersonalproductivityprogram.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Penny. It was great to see you again and be with you on the show. I think you're doing great work here. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. And for all of you who were here and interested in high performance, thank you for being here. But even more importantly, put your money where your mouth is. If you really want to be a high performer and you want to take, because there's always another level wherever you are now, right? Think about karate. There's multiple levels of black belt. So wherever you are, there's potential to grow. So hold yourself accountable. Get a buddy, get a coaching program, do Michael's program. It's only 6 weeks. What could be different? What if you took this and in 6 weeks you could, take back time and be able to spend more time with other things that are important to you, or to really focus and put that effort towards reaching your milestones faster. That's what I want for you, is to be able to take back time. My name's Penny Zenker, and we'll see you in the next episode.